don't think that I really.
See,
So
I love that about you. I love that about you. You just keep what you have to say for when it is important and relevant. I enjoyed listening back, watching back the call from last week. And actually, Noelle, you shared some really good stuff. So we'll let you off the bird
oh,
chat for
thank
today.
you.
Hello, this is exciting. I've missed you guys. It's been a month since I've seen you. I hope you're excited about the tools today. There's some really good stuff, and I can't wait to hear your insights as well on all of this as we move from coaching ourselves to thinking a little bit more about how we coach others at the same time. We have to start with ourselves, don't we? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to start with yourself. You have to bring self-love and self-care in order to do that for others. So this verse from John applies to ourselves and it applies to others as well. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples
Mm.
if you love one another. I think we think a lot, don't we, about shining our light and being a blessing to people. And actually, it can be something as simple as having regard for others in our team, our neighbours, in our family, and just treating other people with love, that can actually
Mm.
speak volumes to others as well. And how do we love? Well, what we've been learning, and you learnt last week with my lovely colleague Gabriel, is that when we love people, what we're doing is we're fighting
Mm.
for their highest good, the highest possible good in the lives of those we lead and those we are around. We liberate people when we love them. Do you remember that old proverb? If you love something, set it free. If it comes back to you, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. So if you love something, set it free. How do we set people free? We set people free in giant speak by calibrating support and challenge, by giving them encouragement, positive words, affirmation, giving them the resourcing that they need, but also by sometimes telling them what they're doing that's in their own way, how they can move on, what the broccoli is that's in their teeth, so that they're not walking around embarrassed or exposed, but we're helping them to be able to move on and develop. Now, younger generations constantly report that's what they're looking for in employers. They're looking not just for a nice environment, they're looking for people who will develop them, who will help them get to the next level. So that's why we were looking at this tool last week. We were thinking, okay, this is something that we can do with our people. And even though we might find it really hard to do, we're going to do it for them because we want them to flourish and we want them to grow. So we're looking at two tools today, and they build off the back of that tool, the leader mindset. This tool is calling up, not out, and we call it the liberator mindset. So, what happens quite often when we try to bring challenge to someone? Sometimes, if we're accidental and we try to bring challenge, people experience us calling them out. They experience it as being against them or for themselves. So, it's a bit like if you were being trained in the gym by a personal trainer. Calling out would be saying, Laura, what have you been doing since I saw you last week? You've put on at least 3 pounds. You can't lift a finger. Shame on you. It shames me. Being called out is shaming. And I don't feel like that person has my highest good at their heart. In contrast, calling up is where I will feel as though that person is absolutely for me. They are saying this because they love me, they see my potential, and they are calling me up. That's why it's green for liberation. It calibrates, support, and challenge. So, again, my PT example, I would hear my PT saying things like, Laura, you've got this. Well done. Keep going. One more. Did I tell you my one more story? Have I told you? So James has this brilliant story about being in the gym and a great big Scottish guy came over. And I don't do accents as well as some people on the call, but I'm going to give it a go. And he said, do you want me to spot you? So he stood over James. James was like, yeah, yeah, sure. Like there's only one answer to that when you're lying down like this, ready to lift. So he gave him the weight. And James was like, oh my word, this is hard, but I'm not going to say no now because the guy's there. So it's like 1, 2, 3. And James was only going to do 8, but he got to 8, and the guy's like, "Come on, James, give me one more, give me one more. 9, yeah, one more. That's nice. That's super nice. 10." And James said it was so funny that he actually got through But from then on, this was years ago, those phrases have become commonplace in our family. Give me one more. You have to say it in a Scottish accent. Nice, super nice, super nice. And what he was doing was he was calling James up. He was saying, You got this, James, lad. That's great. So actually, what we're thinking of is think about personal trainers and how can you get the best out of someone else. James was able to lift more than he thought he could lift because he was believed in and he was called up. So it's a lovely thing to be able to do. And as you were watching the videos, excuse me, I wonder if you were aware that you can sometimes call people out, either because it doesn't feel very natural to bring a challenge, so it's clunky and you don't quite know how to do it, or because you naturally bring challenge, but you're not sure how to calibrate it with support. So our tendency could be to call people out, or our tendency could also be to be a cheerleader. Did you hear that example given as well in the call? It's really helpful. Lots of us don't do calling out, but we don't do calling up either. We just cheerlead. You're great, you're doing fine. But actually, from your personal trainer, what you want from them is you can do more. You're doing great, but you can do more. What else can you bring? So think about how we do it. And that's what the next tool can do. We'll come back to that in a second. The tool that you were introduced to this time is the communication code. And we're going to do a proper deep dive on it the next time because it's a series. But I want us just to look at it from the point of view of calling up. When we're calling someone up, which of these codes do we most need? Do we need to celebrate with them what they're doing? James, that's super nice. That was a good example of celebrating. Do we need to bring care? Again, PT example, maybe just recognizing we know this is hard. We know you might have had a really hard week. This is tough. Or listening to someone who's finding it hard or who's just failed in the challenge you've set for them. So how do we bring care when we're calling somebody up? We're not letting them off the hook, but we are bringing care alongside. Clarify when we think about calling up might be, what exactly are you asking me to do? How can I change this? How can I make sure that I can improve what I'm doing? So I think clarify is particularly important, and we'll come back to that in a second. Collaboration is us working together at how we can improve. So calling up might be, I think you've got more here. Let's talk together about what you can do in order to improve. How can we work on a plan together? What suggestions do you have? And then only very finally, number 5 out of the 5 would be the critique bit. We don't really want to be critiquing people too much if we want to be the people that call them up. But critique is still important. It's an important aspect, especially if you're looking at someone's written work or their presentation. Showing them what actually didn't land quite so well and how they can improve is really important. I was coached. And his big aha is when he brings critique, it doesn't land. It's too soft. Therefore, people aren't improving in the way that he'd like to see them improving. So critique is really important. Are we doing it at all? And does it form an important part of our calling up process if it's done in the right way, having done some of the other codes first? So that's just a little glance at the communication code and think about how you might bring them into the calling up aspect or process that you do. And as I said before, the liberation is the green part of calling up. If we call people out, we're obviously in dominate. And if we cheerlead, we're in protect. So that's why it calibrates really nicely with the support challenge matrix. So what can we do? If we've identified an area for someone in our life where they can be called up, we need to do these 3 things. And this is sort of some extra content on this call. So number 1, we need to specify, be specific about which particular thing needs to improve. Secondly, we need to quantify. We need to say whether this is a big, medium, or small piece of feedback that they need calling up on. That's important because people can worry, and some voices in particular, like connectors, find it very hard to quantify themselves. A small piece of feedback might feel to them like it's fatal or like it's life-threatening, in terms of their experience in your team. They may think, oh no, I've badly let someone down, when actually it wasn't a bad thing at all. It was just a throwaway thing. It was just a small thing that can be improved. So tell them equally, if something is nearing the disciplinary process, be honest with that person that it's there. That's what quantify is. How important is this? Try to give it a size. And thirdly, rectify. What does good practice look like? Okay, what can I do? Okay, I get that I didn't get that opportunity or that I didn't do it as well as I should. What does good look like? And what do I need to do to get there? So, some time ago, I was hoping for an opportunity to do some coaching at a really sort of top level with one of my colleagues. And when he was talking about the piece of work, he didn't mention that he was going to include me in it. And I thought he was. So I said to him, is there any way that, is there any space for me to be involved here? I'd really love to work alongside you and learn as I go and have an opportunity here. And he said, Laura, I'd love to work with you, but you don't have the qualification, the deep executive coaching level accreditation that I need you to have to do this. I'm really sorry, but I'd love to work with you in the future. If you go and get that, if you go and do that, then I will call on you. So he specified I didn't have that particular qualification. It's called PLB. He quantified it. You're going to need to do it. This is how much time it takes. It takes 6 months. It's a decent investment, and rectify that. That will give you opportunity, open doors for you for those sorts of executive clients. So I was a bit sad at the time, but I went ahead and did what he said, and it was such a great investment. Within a couple of months, I was right there at home coaching the kind of people that I wanted to be able to coach and influence at the time. And, I recently had a call with him just last week where he has set me up to work with him on a really exciting project in the future. So that's cool. So just taking that calling up, even though it can sometimes feel like a rejection, can open doors for people, for yourself in the future. So it can happen both ways. You can ask for feedback that calls you up as well as deliver it. So those are my top tips on how you can call someone up. Be specific, tell them how much it is, how important it is, and then what does good practice look like? Give them a vision. It might be that you've identified a particular thing someone on your team isn't doing so well, and you might not have time to show them, or they might not have time to accompany you to see you doing it. But what if there's, is there a clip on YouTube that you could show them and say, look, here's an example of someone doing what I said really well, or here's a document I've prepared. Have a look at how I do it, use it as a template. How can you think of a way that would show them very clearly what good practice looks like? Okay, so take a photo of this. We're going to come back into the room so I can see if there's any questions before we go to breakout. But here is breakout one. Pick one person in work and one at home. Who do you need to be intentional about calling up? What is your default with them? Calling out or cheerleading? Which is your default? And who needs to be called up? So can you think of one person at work and one person at home if you have time to do both? Okay, any questions from the floor before we go to is that clear what to do? Yeah. Okay, great. So Claire, you can pop us into the groups shortly. Have a really good chat on that. So I really look forward to hearing all of your insights shortly. So one person at home, one person at work. And what are your tendencies?
Up tries to happen, it's like, oh no, that didn't land as well as it could have done. So yeah.
Very good. Yes. So the clunky bit, because we're kind of almost caught off guard. Oh, I've got to call this person. I've got to tell this person what they're doing now. We do it in a way that's not perhaps curated or thought through as much as we'd like to. Great. So we're highlighting some issues. Matt, what about you?
It depends at home. Home life. I say I call people. If I take a wife, I call her up more than I do call her out. But it depends on the day, right? My dog, I call my dog out all the time, and it's a lovely thing. And then at work, it depends on the person, the situation. An example today, Lewis does some great work, out of his comfort zone, doing some things he's not done before. So yeah, it's call him up
Yeah.
and sort of
Come
celebrate
on.
him, well done, and sort of led him to sort of he has confidence issues with different bits and pieces. So then just provoked conversation to try and drive him, say, okay, well, look in this direction over here. I didn't give me an answer, but
Yeah.
just look over here. Just trying to lead him on in that sort of direction.
That was to
Um,
rectify. Yeah.
yeah,
Pointing
and I
to
think it's a
where it
problem.
was
And
going
he picked
well.
up there, which is really good. So
How do you call your wife up? You said you're good at calling your wife up. How? Great. Let's celebrate some good
okay.
practice.
She's what's the word? I can't think of the word now. She's not very confident in some situations. So for me, it's a case of saying, look, you know what you're doing. You know, you're
good.
educated in these ways. You know what you do. This as a job. You know, and that plays into this part of what you're struggling with. So you know what you're doing. You just have confidence.
Yes,
That's
excellent.
those sort of conversations with them.
Yeah, that's really good. So building confidence, reminding someone they can do it when they're doubting themselves. That's a good example of calling up. Is that Abby hiding there in the middle?
Yeah.
Hello.
I was a bit late to this, sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's nice to see you. Abby, tell us, what have you got on this?
I said that I call my husband out a lot, because he's annoying. Sometimes it's just but I should probably call him up more. Obviously. And I think I'm just a caller outer, and I need to work on it actually, Laura, because I then said that I call my team out. I get frustrated because I think you're adults and you are paid to do a job that you were employed for. Why don't you just do it?
Yeah.
And you know what you're doing. So
Yeah.
you need to really work on that.
Yes, yes. I think lots of us can relate to that. Thank you for your honesty, Abby. I love it. Beth.
I think we decided Noelle is nicest to her husband. Stuart's cat Merlin gets called out a lot, but it comes from a position of love, I think, and care, so it's all good. I think we also just talked about Bible Society in general, that we have a culture that is very much about celebrating. So we do like to focus on that rather than calling out. And I think that's good because it makes it a very pleasant place to work. But sometimes we do miss learning because we don't like to dwell on like, oh, that didn't work. We kind of go, oh, let's just move on. we don't actually want to like call people out and think, what could we have done? So I think sometimes we rush that because we're really keen to celebrate.
Very good to notice and just to capture that learning. Great. Noelle, let's hear from you. How do you call up your husband? Teach us, mere mortals.
Oh, good.
What's the mic?
Oh, okay. Sorry, no, I'm on two screens. I just think that I don't know. I feel like I'm still in like my honeymoon phase of marriage, even though it's been 3 years. I still feel like my husband's the best person ever. So obviously we still like get into it, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like we usually communicate well. I hope it stays. I hope it's this way.
So it's all downhill from you, Noel.
Yeah.
It's all
I didn't want to say
downhill.
it, John. I don't want to
3
say it.
years, it's brilliant.
That's the peak. No, but you're a
yeah, so-
guardian. You're a guardian
feel like
now. So that's good.
Yes, yeah. Well, I still definitely say like we still have hard conversations, but I think I just see a lot of great things in him, so I pull them out. Yeah.
Love it.
Slush.
Love it. Love it. Yes.
I was thinking about work-wise, I was thinking about how sometimes there can be such huge stakes that I have in my head when it comes to calling someone up, because you're afraid they're going to feel like you're calling them out.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I raise the stakes, but recently, I don't know if Katie Tang's on the call, but recently with a designer, which our designers are like the sweetest people in the world, I just thought that what I had been sent wasn't quite good enough, really. So I just went back and said, hey, I think we need something else for this. And of course, like the stakes are like up here for me because I'm like, oh, and then it's totally fine. And you just have a conversation and yeah, it's going to take time and it means more work. But I think the more I do it, the more I go, oh, actually, I think this is going to be fine.
Yes.
So I think that's something I'm noticing is just to like lower the stakes a bit because it's probably going to be fine as long as you're being intentional to be kind. Yeah.
And doing it kindly. And actually, what are the stakes if you don't do it? What's at stake if you don't do it? If we don't call people up, what is at stake? It's excellence, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's competency, it's productivity, it's efficiency, and it's impact.
Yeah.
You know, to put it in a kingdom term, it's impact actually that will be less.
Yeah.
So putting that filter over it is interesting. Stuart, any thoughts from you on this?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, much better. I don't have too much to add because yeah, we've spoken about my cat. So, no, I mean actually an interesting example, which maybe everyone can kind of pitch in on with some advice, is I'm working on a big project, which is cross organizations. So I'm liaising with another organization called Youth for Christ. And finding that spot, and my general kind of go-to is I'm not very good at challenging. So I will call up or celebrate. But there comes a point where I have to kind of put my foot down a bit. And I'm at one of those points. You know, we're doing a Catholic Bible, and they've got an article in it which is not compatible with Catholic theology. So I've had to say, sorry, that can't go in there. And they're saying, has to go in there. So we're kind of at an impasse, but I have to just put my foot down.
Good.
And try to think, well, I'm sorry, ultimately we own the project. If we have
Yes.
to back out of working with you guys and do our own, then so be it.
Yes.
But I can't market this product if it carries on with this particular edition as part of it. So I'm learning I have to kind of, firmly put my foot down, but not in a, I don't know these people. That's the other problem. It's just on the other end of an email.
Mm.
But I have to be clear about my expectations, what the requirements are, and how be constructive and say, well, here's something I've written, put together that I think would tick both our boxes. Can we work on that as a basis? But sometimes it takes the other person to engage in that dialogue as well.
Well, good for you, Stuart. Your nurture voice is going to help there. You'll do it kindly. And I think we'd rather have someone kind calling us up, wouldn't we? Than someone who's blunt. So whether that's someone who's having to be intentional about the kindness or whether it's someone who has natural kindness, either way, it's good. It's better for this situation. And it's just nice. It sounds like it's going to be consistent. And that's not kind. Clarity is kindness. And it's unclear, isn't it, if it's not compatible with theology. So I'm really glad to hear you're holding that line. Rachel's come in during this call. Did you hear anything there that's helpful for you to capture, or any reflections on what's been said?
I think we're all quite similar. My default is cheerleading.
Yes.
And well, I'm trying to work on not being quite so sharp because I tend to get a bit focused on what we're doing, and I'll be like, no, you can't do that. And it just comes out like that. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And then you see how it lands on the person. You think, oh, I think I was a bit sharp there.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? And that's the motivation, isn't it? When we think, and I completely can identify with Abby, and like, come on, you should just know this. Get on with it. Why do I have to bother to sort of tiptoe around and put it in a really tactful way? But if you put it in that way of like, what do we want? We want impact of what we say. We want growth. So if I ever say to James, I've had to do that, he said, well, how's that working out for you? I just said it. Well, how did that work out for you? Yeah, it landed really, really badly. Right. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep going? Definition of madness, keep doing the same thing and expect different results? Or are you going to put the effort in to slow down, be patient, call up, script it, be careful, and get a better outcome immediately? Or you're going to have to go back and do it later. Claire, I'm going to bring you in. Claire called herself up. I wasn't very well. You can hear I'm sort of recovering from a viral thing, and I had a really horrible cough last Thursday. And Claire and I were going to go together to a big networking event, and I gave Claire an out, but Claire called herself up. Claire, can you tell them what happened? Because I was very proud of you.
Yeah, so we were both meant to go to this event. Doing like business networking under that sort of title is literally my worst nightmare. Going somewhere where you don't know anybody, and having to start random conversations. But I thought, mainly because I have my daughters in the car and I'm always telling them that sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do, or you never know what the outcome is going to be. So I put my big girl pants on and walked in there, very quickly realised, oh, there's a lady walking in front of me and she's on her own as well. So once we'd got through the registration, I thought sort of kept half an eye on her whilst I was registering because she was that little bit in front of me. And watched where she went to stand when she was making a coffee, and she sort of just turned around to the room and didn't look like she was going to sort of go up to anybody. So I was like, right, that's my person. And I went and said hello to her, and said she was thinking exactly the same thing of like, why did I sign up for this? I don't know anybody. She's sort of new to the organization that we were with as well. So and it actually turned out to be a really good conversation and a good person to have started a conversation with. So
Yeah, there you go. Claire absolutely nailed it. Deutsche Bank, and we saw her again today. So we've got a connection and a relationship there. So well done. Blessings on that. And actually, what that is a reminder of is that the 5 circles of influence tool can be really helpful for this tool, surprise, surprise, as it is with every other tool, because we start with self. So to love ourselves, we call ourselves up first. And so Claire called herself up. She sat in the car and was like, I can't tell my kids to have courage and to do things that scare them if I'm not going to do things that scare me too. She called herself up. Isn't that great? So if we're calling ourselves up, and if we are cheerleading ourselves, that means what Claire's saying, it means taking courage. But if we're dominating ourselves, if we're calling ourselves out, that's the first work that needs to change. If we're being clunky with ourselves, how are we speaking to ourselves? What do we hear ourselves say in a moment when we're frustrated with ourselves? You know, I heard someone say the other day, you idiot, about themselves. You know, what does that say? If they're saying that inside, it's a lot harder to call others up because it starts with self. So are we calling ourselves up, first of all? And then are we calling our family up? Are we calling them up? Are we showing them what good looks like? Having been ill, I realised how much I do at home and how much more I need to actually educate my lovely family on in order to help. So on Sunday evening, youngest was having a bath and the other 3 of us were gathered around the bathroom. We're actually praying for our friends in Dubai who could hear missiles and things going off. And I said, right, while we're all here, I'm going to teach you to refill the shower gels from these great tanks of faith in nature tanks we've got. And I said, right. And I literally demonstrated how to refill the shower by putting it on top of the rack across the bath. So if it drips, doesn't matter, it drips into the bath, and you do this and put it. And literally all 3 of them were like, yeah, fair enough. I said, does anyone else ever refilled the shower gel? No one had ever refilled the shower gel. It had been literally me twice a week for months. So, but I showed them, I thought, rectify, right? They don't know necessarily the steps for how to do this, as obvious as that sounds. So how can I call them up? How can I upskill them? I had everybody taking notice. They could see what it was. And I said, guys, if you all just do this a couple of times, it saves me some time, quite a bit of time. Thank you. So family, team, who is it on your team that needs you to show up in a way that is more intentional, in a way that calls them up rather than calls them out or just cheerleads them? Who needs that input? I'm going to just work with those 3 circles. So pick a circle and then think, what is the tendency that is undermining my influence in this circle? What is the small pattern change I need to make in order to have a better outcome? So we heard Claire's example. Claire's tendency was, I don't like events like this. I don't want to go on my own. I gave her an out. But the small pattern change was saying to herself, if I'm going to call the kids up, I need to be able to do this myself. So her children became her motivation. And that can become a pattern. Consider your kids. Consider what you want them to learn from you. What if they were here, what would they think? That can be a powerful motivation for change. And then that can lead to different actions and has consequences. And we had straight away at this event today, we had a friend in Catherine that Claire had made on Thursday. And we hit the ground running, and it made this morning even more enjoyable and exciting because of what Claire had done. So we call it, we own it. What part am I playing or not playing? And lots of you have said, I know my tendency is to call out or is to be a cheerleader, and then response. What am I going to do differently as a result of this? Execution. Try to give something specific. Who is the specific person that I'm going to do this with? Is it myself? Is it a family member? Is it a team member? And what exactly am I going to do? And what am I going to do differently? And that might involve writing it down, scripting a call up for someone particular, a sentence or two that you're going to deliver. So let's go back into the room. Are there any questions on the core process? Okay, back in your groups then, and breakout. Oh, I came back in before I'd shown you breakout 2. Breakout 2 then would be this. What is my next step to liberate my team member? As usual, what is my next step to liberate my team member or my family member or myself? What is my specific next step? Okay, think particularly about specify, quantify and rectify. Do I need to show them a piece of good practice? All right. Stay and ask questions. Otherwise, try and get to a specific next step to share with everyone in a minute. See you soon.
Be my go-to. Yeah, so I think great question. I really appreciate the specify, quantify, rectify. And I remember you shared that in the feedback session with the kind of organization wide, Laura, as well, didn't you? And I thought, I want to go back to this. So really value that. I think there's sort of 2 people I've sort of got in mind. One is someone who's basically kind of asked me for feedback and development, essentially. So it's me kind of reminding myself that given areas where that person can improve is not me calling that person out as if, you know, they're terrible at what they're doing already. So I think I kind of have to retrain my head, because my natural is to sort of cheerlead. So I'm finding that really helpful. And so we're kind of working on specific things that that they can improve on, really, which is a great learning space for me as well. And then the other one is someone that I had quite a difficult meeting with outside of Bible Society, so not slagging anyone off here. Or am I? No, I'm not. And I felt kind of I handled that initial meeting well, and I kind of problem solved. But it's one of those things that I'm just aware of, that my tendency was, because it was such a difficult meeting for me and it took a lot of energy out of me, my tendency would be to kind of go, I'm not going to work with that person as much now.
Yes.
Because if this is what their behavior is like, that's too much energy for me to kind of to problem solve. And so I feel challenged off the back of this to go, how can I work out to call that person up more? And it's probably just making them aware that how I can better serve them, because there was something that I did that I think stressed that person out. And then off the back of asking for that feedback, sort of giving mine of, well, look, you know, I'd love to work more deliberately with you, and maybe we can just try and sort of share ideas of how I think that could work better.
Yes.
It's all very vague. It's difficult to do it when it's with other people, isn't it? Without slagging them off.
Yes,
For being terrible people.
Yes.
But helpful.
So next step, perhaps just having a bit of thought on that, of how you do it, and you know how that can happen relationally as well.
I think there's a meeting that I think I can book in. That there's a natural space for booking a meeting in, so that can work. Yeah.
And let's explore this. And actually, you know, that tool from 2 weeks ago. You know, what support and challenge do you need from me? You know, how do you want me to bring you support? How do you want me to bring you challenge? And they might surprise you. I remember expecting someone to say, "Oh, no more challenge," and I said, "My work's easy, Laura. Give me something more harder." It's like, "Oh, okay, great. I did not think we were on that page." So ask them. Yeah. Start with a question. That can be a great way in. Rachel, we haven't heard too much from you yet. So any thoughts? What are you going to do? Do you have a next step?
Yeah, well, we talked about calling myself up, not out, so that I can call others up,
Yes.
not out. And
Yes.
yeah, so how I speak to myself, but and then also just I have already said this, but it's just different situations, different phrases. I need to have some phrases when I know something's already decided, that I don't just shut people down.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Or if you do, you can qualify it.
Yeah.
So I sometimes give a command and then I say, pass me that, but if you will. I do the nice bit after.
Yeah.
But I've just out myself for it. Claire, probably do it to you all the time. Because I think direction and then I think, actually, I'm inviting you. I'm not commanding you. I didn't want it to come out like that. So have a way of afterwards of qualifying yourself as well. That's quite a helpful habit. Matt, thought from you. You might be the last one. And if anyone else has a burning thing to share, then please jump in after Matt.
To call my dog up. Men's a little dog, and he's not annoying. He's lovely, really. Yeah, something in my brain was thinking. I know I've got a couple of different personalities in my team, and they got challenges in themselves. So, really, for me, looking back at the PDRs, so I started reading the PDRs, which we've done this year, and a lot of stuff became transparent from reading those in a bit more detail and taking all that into context of how they're behaving or not behaving or acting. So there's an action there for me, really. I think just to take some time to think about the team a bit more, the personality traits, and looking back at the PDRs because there's some nuggets in there somewhere.
Excellent. And actually having accountability with your team. That's a great way to call them up is, so this was raised. What have you done since? You know, how can I support you in this goal that we've identified for you? Okay, great. We've run out of time, but that's really good and some great insights from everybody. So keeping in mind to call yourself up this week. Now you've got a brilliant deep dive in the communication code coming up. The communication code is an incredible tool. I can't say that enough. And I just wanted to say that if you might not always have time to do the extra additional resources that Tracy recommends, but I really would make time for this one. She'll encourage you to watch the communication code series, which is here on the platform under other resources. And it's Steve at his very best. It is absolute gold. It's gold not only for the workplace, it's really gold for your relationships as well. So put it on while you're cooking or whatever. Maybe enjoy it with your other half or with a friend as well. It's a great resource. So any other questions? Otherwise, have a great day.
Yeah, I had one, Laura.
Yes.
One of the things said about the Liberator's Intent series, and I couldn't find it.
Great question. Okay. The Liberator's Intent series. I'm just seeing if it's in the same place as
name, because one of the tasks said something, the calling up, calling out, formerly known as Liberator's Intent.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the one.
Yeah, it might have a different name.
But
Yeah, I couldn't
you're
find
right.
it either.
But you couldn't find that series. Did anyone find that series that Tracy referenced?
Didn't look.
Yeah, I appreciate that sometimes there's just too much to do with the extra work that she would suggest. I'll make a note and ask Tracy where that is.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking in, Rachel. Thanks, everyone. You superstars.
See you soon.
See you. Well done. Great work.
Thanks, Laura, Claire. Thanks, guys.
Great. Love it.
I just wanted to stay on briefly because Chris and I think